Alrighty, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gillespie?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Ingerson?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Moss?
Here.
Mrs. Bernice?
Here.
Mr. Paulson?
Here. Quorum being present, stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda tonight is just a reminder of, especially now that school's back in session, our mission statement. Our mission statement is to challenge, provide, and empower, and hashtag we're proud to be EP. Speaking of being proud to be EP, I know on our public recognition we have the Link crew today. So, Mrs. Riggins, would you like to bring your team forward?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Holly Riggins. I'm the associate principal here at East Peoria High School. One of the jobs that I have throughout the year is to lead our mentors, our Link crew group. So every spring, I put out some information if anybody's interested to be a mentor and a leader here in our building. It goes along with teacher recommendations, academics, attendance. There's some different standards that they have to meet in order to be part of this group. This year we are small but mighty, I keep saying. We're a group of only about 27 students. But we have the best 27. So it's been pretty incredible to start our year this year. Our biggest task that we have is to bring all the freshmen into the building for Fresh Start Day, which happened on Wednesday of last week. And so I brought along with me 3 students to tell you what that day is all about. And if you have any questions, let us know. So I have Braseda Arguin, and then I have Kyla Kelch and Colette Van Oppen. And they're each just going to take a moment to tell you what we did on that day.
So in the Link Crew Fresh Start Day, we have stations, and there's the Get Connected in the main gym, which is where a lot of the sports and activities can just kind of like put themselves out there so people can join their club or sport. So we had like the basketball, we had girls track and field, we just had a variety of sports and clubs. And then we also had a station in the cafeteria with the counselors, which helped freshmen get their Chromebooks started, get logged in, get all their information set up, so then it makes the whole process easier for when school actually starts.
So another one of our stations was the building tour, where we take all of our kids in our group and we show them different wings. And I think another really important thing is, as students, it's a little bit more beneficial than if we're teachers were to do it, because we know the holes to cut through. We know the holes you kind of want to avoid, because maybe there's students taking tests sometimes. We know how to explain shortcuts and little tips and tricks. And I know as my freshman year it was very helpful, so I try and keep that going throughout my groups. And then we also had a group in the library where it was talking with the psychologists, kind of help us. It's staying organized throughout school, and I know that was a new one this year, and I think it was really beneficial because I learned a lot personally as a senior, and it just kind of showed how our brains work and how staying organized, even if we're not organized, we have our own way of doing things, and how helpful it is in freshman year.
Okay, and then our 5th and final station was Dean's Assembly. You basically learn all the rules of the school, how to stay out of trouble, hopefully, how to stay out of that office. And then they kind of go through the handbook, the dress code, phones, and then, of course, final exam rules. Once you have completed all of the stations in the morning, you go to lunch. We kind of just walk them through how every lunch line works, because it can get kind of confusing with 4 lines plus snack bar going on. So we showed them how to scan their IDs, how to even get the lunch, and then just go sit down right after.
And then in addition to the tour, after all of our stations and after lunch, they get to walk through their schedule. They have 5-minute passing periods and then 5 minutes, and you just get to meet your teacher. It gets all the jitters out, I think. And I know for like the first day of school, it's very helpful because even if they don't remember where it's at, they know the teacher. So it's kind of able to look for a familiar face. And I know this year, I think we did a lot better than we have in years past. It's always been good, but I feel like we were able, like I was able to stay in one spot and I could be like, hey, go to my friend over here in the yellow shirt. And then they would find them and then they would take them where they need to go. So we would all like stay in our spots so that way they knew where we were. And then like the teachers always help too. So I'd be like, hey, go to my teacher right here. She's very nice. She'll help you take you where you need to go. And I just think it helps them a lot. I know I've had a lot of people come up to me even after and they'll ask me where to go. So I think it just helps them with that. And then also as someone who's very like involved in Best Buddies and Unified PE, I think it's really powerful to like meet someone at the front of the cafeteria, take them to their table and be like, hey, I'm Kyla, I'm gonna be your leader in Unified. I'm gonna be one of the buddies in Best Buddies. And then being able to develop a connection with them before school even starts, I think it's very powerful for them.
So we had about 220 freshmen this year that experienced that day, which was pretty awesome. And it's just really great. Like I had a Link Crew leader come up to me during lunch and say, hey, this is one of the freshmen's IDs. Do you know if they're in here? And I said, oh, I think they're over there. And she like went to give it to me and I was like, why don't you take it to her? And so today at lunch we walked over and just to watch that smile and that exchange, and then they remembered each other. So they have a person already in the building that's not just an adult. It's a peer, which is pretty incredible. So if you want to see more about it, actual footage from the day, Briseida, tell them what they can expect on Inside the Tribe.
So we took a couple of interviews from the freshmen and also Link Crew members, and also the foreign exchange student, Iggy. So we took a couple of interviews from the freshmen to see what it was like, what they were excited for, and then also we took clips of just all the stations. So you'll be able to see that Inside the Tribe soon.
Any questions for the group?
No, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your thanks for serving.
Thanks for having us today.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, is there anybody else signed to speak to the board?
There is not.
Thank you. Moving on, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains approval of the East Peoria Community High School minutes of our regular meeting of July 28th, the executive session of July 28th, approval of the Tazewell Mason County Special Education Association executive board minutes, and policy board meeting minutes, the treasurer's report, which includes the financial statement, investment report, activities account balances, our budget report, approval of East Peoria Community High School's bills, approval of Tazewell Mason County Special Education Association bills, and action item 260801, which is personnel employment. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gillespie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ingerson. Are there any questions or comments about any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Ingerson? Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Moss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bernice?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Superintendent Hackett?
All right. Action consideration 2608-02, adopt tentative EPCHS FY27 budget. Included in your board packet is the presentation I'm going to go through tonight. In addition to that was the actual state budget form. That kind of gives you a little bit more detailed information. I'm going to try to kind of fly in between those two as I kind of go through this with you tonight. So starting off, I like to put in the fund descriptions. Remember, we have 8 funds that we use here at EP. So I won't read through those, but you can refresh your memory as you go through there and as we talk about what funds things are expended from. I also like to always remind everybody that when we're putting together a budget, just like our household, it's our best guess to what we think is going to happen throughout the year. Certainly things will happen that we know of, and there'll be things that will be unexpected as well. If you go to page 5 of the presentation, that is our FY27 budget summary fund. And I just have everything broken down by fund, revenues and expenditures, and then surplus and loss. I'm going to go through each fund individually, but this just kind of gives you the overview. And then I'll explain, some of these numbers in a little bit more detail. All right, so if we go to page 6, let's start with Fund 10. Fund 10 is obviously our biggest fund. That is where most of our activity happens each school year. I like to break this down in our revenue between 3 different sources: local, state, and federal. And you can see our totals there, what we expect to receive from each one. You can see that we are very heavily reliant on local revenue. 77.4% comes from property taxes. It also includes interest income, school fees, personal property replacement tax, school lunches, athletic admissions. Those are all factored into our local revenue. State revenue makes up for 14.7% of the budgeted revenue in Fund 10. The main source here is our evidence-based funding, which is state aid. The amount we'll be receiving this year in EBF is $1,717,292, and that is an increase of $61,680 over last year's amount that we're going to get for EBF. We are Tier 2 out of 4, and just as a reminder, there's 4 different tiers. It goes from Tier 1 being the least level of adequacy, Tier 4 being more fully funded. So we are at Tier 2, and based on last year's information, we're at 77% adequacy. I think last year we were at 80, so we've dropped just a little bit. Tier 1 and Tier 2 are the districts that receive most of the money from the state. Tier 3 and 4 receive very minimal amounts. So some other things that are in state funding are mandated categorical payments. Those are our special education reimbursements, driver's ed reimbursement, state lunch. So that is the bulk of what makes up our state revenue. Federal revenue, you can see we have money that comes from the federal government as well. That amounts to 7.9%. This is basically our Title I and our IDEA grants, and also our National School Lunch Program. So that is what makes up a bulk of our revenue overall, and then all of it in the education fund. Below that, I like to break out expenditures. You'll see these if you look at the state budget form. You'll see these as well, broken out the same way. So you can see, obviously, just like most other organizations, people, our salary and benefits are going to be our largest expense. And then it's also broken out then by purchase services, services that we would contract other people to come in and do, or curricular programs, things like that. Supplies, capital outlay typically is our larger expenses, and then other objects, that's a little bit larger number. This is where our out-of-district placements for special education go, also dues and leases, bonds, things like that makes up for that other objects category. So that is the education fund. That is kind of the biggest one. You go to the next page, operations and maintenance. That is Fund 20. Most of our revenue comes from property taxes, again, local revenue. The little bit of state revenue that we do receive in the O&M fund is our school maintenance grant. We should hopefully be receiving that again this year. That's what we've been told, that they will be able to make those funds available. No federal revenue comes in for O&M. And then expenditures, same thing. All of those categories are taken up in the Fund 20. And Fund 20 is obviously, it's our maintenance and custodial workers, our utilities, our phone, electric, gas, water, maintenance and cleaning supplies, buildings and grounds repairs and improvements. I don't have, the one thing I did want to address yet, I don't have the bills yet from the water line break. So I'm budgeting for a slight loss in that fund, knowing that we're probably going to have some one-time expenditures that are going to have to come out of that fund for things that were not covered by the insurance. And as soon as I have that information, I'll be sharing that with you. But so far, none of those major bills have come in yet. All right, that is the O&M fund. The next fund is our bond and interest. And this, we do receive all revenue from local sources. This is property taxes for 2 of our bonds. We have 4 total. So property taxes pay for 2, and then our city sales tax agreement pays for our 2 alternate revenue bonds. The thing that's a little bit different about the bond and interest fund, you'll see I put in here transfer from 10 and 20. Excuse me. So it's a little bit weird because a few years ago they changed it where we had to pay our leases out of Fund 30, but we can't actually put the revenue into Fund 30. In fact, I just asked the auditor again. I said, I know the answer is no. I said, but I just want to make sure I ask the question. And she's like, no, you have to transfer it over. So that money actually, a portion of that goes into Fund 10, which would be like our copier lease. And then the other amount goes into Fund 20, which is our stadium lease, our phone lease, skid steer lease. So that's why we have to do those transfers into that. It's not true revenue, but I want to make sure that it's reflected there. So again, everything's local property taxes, and then the money we get for city sales tax. And then on the expense side, the only thing on the expenditures for Fund 30 is our other objects, which is what we pay our bonds and leases from. So that one's pretty straightforward, not a lot of activity that goes in and out of the bond and interest fund. Next page is our transportation. You'll see we do have local and state revenue. Local is our property taxes and interest income. The state money, this is, we file the transportation report every year in order to receive money from the state. They continue to drop the proration. It should be that, we should be receiving like 80% of what we're asking for or what we're claiming. This year, this coming year, it's going to be like 76% for regular transportation is what some people are kind of projecting. The real hit comes in special education transportation. They're only going to be reimbursing what they're saying is about 60%. The challenging part for us is so many of our miles are special education routes right now because we have a bus that goes to Havana every day. So we're racking up a lot of miles there, Bloomington. The good news is the Havana Menta school is going to be moving to Groveland, so we're going to be able to at least have a lot closer transportation situation for that. So when you have so many special education miles and they're reducing that down to 60%, certainly affects the amount of revenue that we're going to get there. But that fund is in very good shape. The expenditures obviously are our bus drivers and bus monitors, any supplies, repairs, gas, of course. We all know that has been up for the last several months. So hopefully there'll be some relief there. But I did budget accordingly in that we don't know how long those prices will stay up. So you'll see it is budgeting for a loss in that fund. We did that as well last year. We didn't actually end up having a loss. I think when I looked at the numbers, we had a profit about $9,000, but we just want to be proactive there. So again, those are, when you budget for that loss, it's knowing it's more one-time expenditures, not like legacy costs as far as personnel. All right, next page is our Fund 50, Municipal Retirement Social Security Fund. So I do just want to give some reminders on this when you look at these numbers. So our revenue here is all local property taxes. When I did the levy back in December, at that time I had talked to you about that we had built up a fund balance in that specific fund. There is nothing else you can do with that money. You cannot transfer it to another fund. So when we did the levy last year, we drastically reduced that to spend down some of that fund balance. So for at least probably the next 2 years, we're going to show a loss. That's intentional. We want to do that. So you can see that there. Everything as far as an expense, obviously it's all benefits. It's Medicare, Social Security, and IMRF. So all of that comes out of the benefits expense line. All right, Fund 60, capital projects. So this will look some big differences there in revenue expenditures. So the fund balance is paying for most of these expenditures. We had already put the revenue in for the main gym bleachers and for the track. Those are both being paid out of this fiscal year, so revenue in one year, expenses are coming out another, so obviously that's going to show a higher expense to revenue ratio. I have put some money there. Over the next month, I'm going to be fine tuning the budget, but right now I did want to put some extra money in capital projects. We have a lot of things that need to be done. One of my main focuses this year is continuing classroom door replacement, so we will be looking at that and then some other things, but that's why you're going to see less revenue but more expenditures out of that capital projects fund this year. All right, Fund 70, that's super easy. That working cash, that's our savings account as we call it. There's only revenue, there's never any expenditures that come out of that. I don't have any plans at this point in time to be recommending any transfers out of that fund, so that all that revenue should stay in that fund for FY27 at this point in time. And then the last fund, Fund 90, Health, Life, Safety. This is all local revenue, property taxes, and investment income. Just again, a little bit of information on this fund. Every 10 years, you have to do a survey through your architect. Ours was done in 2019. Most of the major work from that 10-year survey is done. We don't have any major expensive items anymore on that list. In fact, there's not much left on that list at all. So then the expenditures out of this fund come from when we have to do amendments for that. We've had a couple of those over the course of this past year. It's always very difficult to budget for this because, again, it's going to be for something that comes up that we don't know right now. Some things that we've been doing with this fund over the last year or so, the chiller compressor. The main thing this past year was the east side home bleachers were paid for when we had to redo the concrete supports. Some other things in the past, the same thing was done for the bleachers on the visitor side at east side. Water heaters, asbestos abatement. We had a boiler heat exchange at one point in time. The main thing to keep in mind over the next few years where we're going to be spending this money is in roofs. So it won't be in FY27. We're going to go out to bid in the fall, and then we'll start roof work next summer, but most likely it's not going to be paid in FY27. It'll start in the next fiscal year, and we'll have a few years of that. So again, I budget for a loss in this fund only because you just don't know what's going to come up, and the fund balance is there to cover it, and it's always going to be one-time expenditure, so no ongoing costs in that fund. And then the last page is just our fund balance summary. You'll see the unaudited beginning balances for each fund, and then I put in the FY27 revenue and expenditures, and then listed out what the projected ending balance would be for each fund as well. A slight decrease in the fund balance, which is perfectly fine. We have money there that we need to be spending on some of these one-time expenditures. So overall, back at the very beginning, it showed in all funds a negative $525,781. A big chunk of that is that money in capital projects, that the money just didn't get spent out of the last fiscal year budget. So a lot of information, I know, but I'm happy to answer any questions now. I'm happy to answer any questions over the next month. Feel free when you have time to look over that state budget form. Like I said, it breaks it down a little bit more in detail. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer or explain anything about how school budgets and school finance work.
All righty. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve action item 2608-02, adopt tentative East Peoria Community High School fiscal year 2027 budget?
So moved.
Been moved by Mrs. Bernice. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Driscoll. Are there any questions or comments regarding the tentative budget?
This isn't even the beginning of how much I would love to talk about budgets, but everybody knows I have that kind of background.
We're going to invoke the 1 minute rule right now.
Well, that's fine, and I'm okay with that. It's just a general question, and
Yeah.
because I think this will be educational for all of us.
Yes.
Because I'm curious about it. We have things like a transportation budget has roughly about a $3 million budget last year. It'll keep having about a $3 million budget, and we can kind of dip into it obviously during the year with revenues coming in and out.
Yeah.
What are some of the ideas or benchmarks where you look for to kind of set that roughly? Like again, for transportation, it's 3 million. For operations management, it's a little more than that.
Yeah. So
where are you
keep the
where are we
fund
setting the
balance.
benchmarks for that? Is that our history? Is it other districts or what? What do
Yeah.
you look for?
So typically with the state, you want to have a certain number of days of cash on hand, which we always get when we have the audit done. I kind of look at that, and that gives you an overall for the whole all of the funds. I like to look at it for each individual fund as well. So look at it just in transportation, look at it as O&M, look at it in education. And that'll be one of the things now that I've gotten here for a year and kind of have a better understanding of our finances is where are we at in just those specific funds and how many days of cash on hand. Because you want to have, you want to feel safe and have, a good amount, maybe 180 to 200 is really you feel comfortable. And those days of cash on hand, meaning if we receive no new income, we would be able to function overall for that many days. And ours is higher right now. It's not too high. I mean, you can see that we're only at 77% adequacy. But looking over this year, I'm going to be looking at those and seeing, okay, how much do we really need to have in these funds? So, yeah.
We wouldn't necessarily just want to just immediately draw it down.
No.
It's really cash flow is what's driving
Exactly.
most
Yeah.
of the
So for
setting
example,
the amounts.
So for example, Fund 50, that IMRF in Social Security, I probably made a little bit more of a drastic cut there because in my previous district I had the same situation and I kept trying to do it, and for some reason, like, you would get other money and it would come in. So sometimes in those situations you do make a little bit harsher cut. To spend that fund balance down a little bit faster. With the operating funds, I would be a lot more gradual just to make sure that we're, looking forward to make sure that there's not something on the horizon that we didn't see and then spend too much of it down. And the other thing too is, and this is really not about budget so much, but one thing that we've done a lot over the last year is moving money from checking into our CDs and those individual funds. In fact, our CD renews on Friday, and I just sent to the bank how much more money I want to move over there, so that we're make sure that we're capitalizing on gaining that interest while those interest rates are still actually doing that. But yeah, it's a good question because you do need to look at each individual fund, and you don't want to have 500 days of cash on hand for something.
Right.
There's no point in that. Yeah.
Well, then the concern would be, even if you had a cash shortfall, you probably first would come to the board to try to move stuff around,
Right.
similar to what we did with working capital when there's unexpected things. But
Yes.
we prefer not doing that's more of something we prefer not to do.
Yep. Yeah, I don't like to move money around unless we absolutely need to. I don't foresee that being here. The only time we've done that is where it was really moving it into the right fund to actually pay the expenditure, not because the fund was in need.
Deficient.
Funded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the board? Well, I'd just like to thank you, though. I mean, your explanation was great and well appreciated, and I just think it's a very great standard you're setting here, and I think especially how we look at our top fund and you're able to balance revenue and expenditures with that while still, we look at a net loss, but really with how we account for things with projects being paid in whole and expense instead of depreciated over time. It's really a job well done on this budget. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to be instead of trying to exaggerate, expenditures and reduce revenues, I'm really trying to get us to a place where we're really looking at real numbers as much as possible.
Sure.
I understand the reason for doing that, but I really want it to be more accurate as it possibly can, knowing that it's our best guess. But yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingerson,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Bernice,
Yes.
Mr. Paulson,
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next item, please.
All right, action consideration 2608-03, adopt tentative TMC SEA FY27 budget. I want to introduce you to Andrea Hartnett. So Andrea
is in her first year as the director of Tazewell Mason County Special Education Association. So she is presenting her first budget to us. She's done this at least twice, if not more. She's done it to all of the superintendents in the regions that make up the association, and she's presented it to us on the exec board. So she's a pro at it by now. But I do introduce you to Andrea. She's taken over for Chrissy Neville, and my experience so far has been great, really getting to know Andrea and enjoying it. So welcome.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. I do take over for Chrissy Neville, long-term director and superintendent at Tazewell Mason, and I'm excited. Obviously a little bit nervous, but I have truly enjoyed my time getting to know Mr. Hackett and Mrs. Rutledge as well, working together over the past 6 weeks or so, and looking forward to a partnership with you guys as well as the governing board. And I know that's a little bit of an extra burden on you each month, and so just wanted to say I appreciate the time and efforts that you guys have to do on behalf of both counties and our other 20 districts that you guys help represent. So thank you. So please bear with me, give me some grace. I'm going to go through the budget. Mr. Hackett, you did a wonderful job precursoring some of the things I can talk about and give a little bit more reference to. Special education funding is a little bit different, and so I did send electronic copies of for your packets, but then I did make hard copies as well. So just wanted to kind of go through this with you, and if you have questions or, I'd welcome feedback too after this meeting. If you'd like to see the information presented in a different way or in more detail, I'd be happy to do that moving forward. I do plan to come back next month just for that final budget approval, so happy to answer questions too. So Tazewell Mason continues to demonstrate fiscal responsibility in their budgeting and spending habits. A comparison of the budget to actual expenditures for fiscal year 26, as evidenced by the graph in your packet, showed that Tazewell Mason County Special Education Association only used 86.83% of what they budgeted in Fund 10, 40, and 60 respectively last year. And as Mr. Hackett explained, in the district's budgeting, there are 8 fund codes. Conversely, at Tazewell Mason, we only use 3. So we're using 10 Ed Fund, 40 Transportation, and 60 for infrastructure. So our budget looks quite different than what you guys are used to seeing here at East Peoria. About 90% of our revenue comes from just 2 revenue streams. I know Mr. Hackett talked about evidence-based funding for one of your revenue streams. That makes up only about 4.5% of ours. Our major dollars comes from our districts and our billing methods. So about 83% of our revenue comes from our billing of our districts. Our proposed FY27 budget was based on the proposed staffing pattern, professional development plan, and our ESY program, which the executive committee approved back in May of 2026. The results of our district needs assessment this spring found that additional services for psychology, OT, which is occupational therapy, and speech language pathologists had increased. And so that proposed staffing pattern included the staff required to meet those needs. Upon completion of the budget comparison of the past 5 years, we found that our proposed budget is the lowest it has been in the past 5 years at $11,179,951. It includes a 76% proration, personnel proration, and it reflects the base funding minimum amount of $407,592 from evidence-based funding. Our proposed Fund 10 budget is coming in around $10,804,951, which reflects an increase of 1.45%. The current fund balance in that fund is only $2,150,843, and that's because our billing will start here this month and go throughout the year, and so conversely to what you do as far as keeping a fund balance throughout the years. We do not. What we turn around and do at the end of each fiscal year is reimburse our districts those differences. And so we keep about $100,000 in contingency, making sure we have that cash on hand, but we do not keep large fund balances. We turn them back to our districts. So that is a little bit of a difference as well. And so, yes, our fund balance doesn't show that we could cover that Fund 10 budget, but that will come through in that billing. Fund 40 is our transportation fund. Mr. Hackett talked a little bit about special education transportation. We do not transport students our own. The burden is on the districts, and so we keep that budget right at that $25,000 mark. What comes out of that is usually our community-based trips, taking our students out for that community learning within, or shopping trips, field trips, things like that. So we consistently budget just for $25,000 to cover that each year. And then our Fund 60, our infrastructure, has a proposed budget of $350,000 and a fund balance of $354,738.66. We have no large-scale construction projects scheduled for this year. Prior to Chrissy's departure, she got some of those major life safety projects that Mr. Hackett referenced. She made sure that those were completed ahead of her departure. Fund 60 for us is primarily funded through the Quest funds. So that's how we do a lot of our infrastructure, especially at Schramm. A lot of people bequest money for the Schramm school due to their close relationships and those students and high needs that we were able to build throughout their years. We do have shared billing that we bill the districts, and those are made up of 4 different areas: administration, operations and maintenance, what we call LIDS, which is low incidence diagnostics. We're coming out and doing vision assessments, hearing assessments. Some of those disabilities you don't hear as often. And then our professional development and programmatic supports within the districts. When we're looking at making up our shared billing, we use the December 1st child count to determine what we're going to bill each district. So as an example, administratively, the billed rate is $205.64 per student at your child count number, but that is a decrease this coming year of 5.11%. So we are trying to be, again, fiscally responsible, knowing that times are getting tougher. Operations and maintenance, we bill at a rate of $100. And then just notably, our professional development, we bill at a billed rate of $144.65 per student, but those bills can be paid for from your IDEA grant funds that you guys submit each year. Our overall shared costs reflect a decrease of 2.89% for this year, and again, they're billed in 10 equal payments from the member districts starting in August. Our two schools that, which is another billing stream, is our tuition. We have Schramm Educational Center, and again, that's more of our low incidence students, our medically fragile students. We do have some kids with autism and behavioral needs that attend that school. We try to keep our attendance around 70 students a year. And tuition is anticipated to be around $34,447 per student, which is an increase of 3.3%. That increase can be contributed to, we've added transition support, more occupational therapy, and additional nursing services for some of those medically fragile students. Our other school is our satellite program for kids with emotional disabilities, and that's called Rogers Academy. Right now we have 4 classrooms. My understanding is the enrollment has hovered around 20 to 23 students historically over the past couple of years that we've been open. We are expected and talked to administrators. We'd like to get at 25 students this year, and the tuition that we're proposing is based on that number of having 25 students served in that program. We are proposing a tuition rate of $40,545 per student a year, and that's a 3.31% increase. That's because we've added PE. We've split our PE teachers' time between Schramm and Rogers. We've added additional nursing and then additional behavioral supports at that school as well. Districts do receive prorated reimbursement for those tuition costs for both of those schools each year as well. So that is a positive to those numbers. And I have had conversations with Mr. Hackett as well as far as those shared build costs and the tuition billing and, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I do believe that knowing what some of the other programs, he talked about some of our students going to Menta in Havana, we've got some in Hammett in Bloomington. When you hear those tuition rates, it sounds high, $34,000, $40,000 a year for those students to attend those programs. We are still at a bargain rate at Tazewell Mason for those two schools. We are comparatively lower than what those programs are charging. So, is there any questions?
I do have one, if I may.
Yeah.
When you talked about the Schramm Education Center, you referenced something about transition.
Yes.
Just to help educate me, transition from what to what, or who to
Yeah,
who? Or?
that's a great question. So more services for our 18 to 22-year-old population, helping them go out into workplaces and learn jobs, taking them out. One of the things they do will take students out and learn even bus systems within Peoria to try to get to jobs on their own once they turn 22 and become responsibility on the state system versus the school-based system. So really building those programs and supports. It is a high need in the state that we have more and more students with disabilities with less and less supports once they leave the school systems. So those types of supports.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is our really helpful information. I did have a question. So I see the budgets, but not the actual fund balances.
Yeah.
For specifically the infrastructure projects.
So
when
the
you
fund
get-
balances.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
maybe I missed
No,
it.
you're not. I'm sorry. I interrupted. It was on my paper.
Oh, okay.
It's on mine.
Okay, that's great. Well, and I guess the question is, because there's actually a Wall Street Journal article about this with universities. It's all the talk about universities and misappropriated funds, especially from gift accounts, right?
Okay.
And so as there's bequests coming in, typically it sounds like, are they usually spent right away, or is there a large pocket of amounts that kind of
Again-
grow over time that people can come back to a few years ago, but
Yeah.
we want to pay attention to those not being
Yeah.
misappropriated?
Again, this is my first year.
Yeah, I was going to
First
say,
assessment.
I'm sorry, that's a
But
heavy
if you
question
look
for your
on
first one.
page 2, under Fund 60, it shows the five-year historical, and it looks like my understanding is, it looks like maybe they got a $3 million bequest.
Gift, and so it's money in and money out usually. So if
Exactly,
the
that's
bequest
my
comes in,
understanding.
they find ways to spend it. So there's not
And-
just a big chunk of gift money just sitting there.
No.
Okay.
And my understanding, when I'm looking at this, it looks like $557,000 was spent. And I can say, like, they did a canopy outside of Schramm Educational Center. They expanded the sidewalk extra wide and put a canopy up because a lot of our students, about 80% of our students are mobility challenged or in wheelchairs. And so when you're out there in the elements, that project alone was $200,000 to put that canopy up. So a lot of our bequest funds also come with a tie that it can only be used for Schramm purposes. Another thing that they did, Chrissy did, was surface the parking lots this past year. Roof on Schramm. So yes, it sounds like she specifically used those funds. They come in and she wants to utilize for keeping Schramm up to code. I don't know if that answered your question or
It
not.
does, yeah. Well, I just, just the risk of anything of just, especially bequests where, especially once people have passed away, no one's really paying attention to where that money
Sure,
goes anymore.
sure.
And then if you have a small group and they decide that would serve a better purpose than what the person originally wanted the bequest at. You can get to a point where there can be challenges there, especially if a large amount grows and builds and builds. And so if that's the case, probably want a contingency plan or some extra oversight there. If it's just money in and the practice is to just spend it, and there's probably more than enough ways to spend it,
And I
then
just
that becomes not a problem.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sorry for interrupting because I had the fund balances on my paper, but I
Oh,
did
no
not put it
problem.
on yours. So the fund balance currently in Fund 60 is $354,738, and she budgeted $350,000. So she's looking to spend
Roughly,
that
yeah.
down. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Do you want the fund balance for the other two?
After the meeting would be
Okay.
great to look
Alright.
at. But yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Alrighty, do I have a motion for action item 2608-03, adopt tentative Tazewell Mason County Special Education Association fiscal year 2027 budget?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gillespie,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Bernice. Are there any additional questions or comments on this action item?
Can I just say thank you, just for everything that your district does for these students, truly, thank you.
You did great.
Yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Moss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bernice?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Ingerson?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All
Next
right.
item, please.
Action consideration 2608-04, approve updated board policy. In your board packet, I gave a lengthy explanation for this, so I won't go through the whole thing all over. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer it. But it was something that should have been taken care of back in May of 2025, and we just didn't get that extra sentence added literally into the policy. So I thought the safe thing to do, and though I knew it was the intention, I feel like the right thing to do is just go ahead and have it approved so we have our I's dotted and T's crossed. So I would recommend that the Board of Education adopt the updated board policy as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for action item 2608-04, approve updated board policy?
So moved. Oh,
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bailey. Is there a second by Mr. Ingerson? Are there any questions or comments on this action item? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Moss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bernice?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Ingerson?
yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. That ends our action items for tonight, so moving on to the information reports.
All right, information item 2608-01, monthly calendars. You can see we are revving back up for the school year. So next week we have Meet the Teacher on Wednesday evening, August the 26th. And then we get into September. Homecoming week will be the week of September the 14th with our parade and variety show on Wednesday, August the 16th. Homecoming dance is on Saturday, September the 19th, and our next board meeting will be on Monday, September 21st at 6 o'clock. You'll also see Ms. Menzioni has all of our events in your board packet that our kids are going to be participating in over the next couple months, so please be sure to take a look at that and come out and support our Raiders when you have that opportunity. And then information item 2608-02, personnel resignations are listed there. Proper notice was sent to the board president and board secretary. And then along with that, we did have one retirement, so information item 2608-03 was our personnel retirement. That was also sent to the board president and board secretary. And now, I started this last year and I kind of liked doing this, so information item 2608-04, first week of school. I just wanted to give myself and Ms. Brown an opportunity to just kind of talk to you guys and tell you a little bit about these first few days back at school. So first of all, it's great to have the energy back in the building. I'm one that I'm always ready for summer, and then I'm also always ready for people to come back and get the new school year going. And you can just feel it. I mean, just having the kids in the weight room and in the hallways and doing their thing, it just, you got to love being in high school. I know myself and Ms. Brown, that's our heartbeat and our passion. So Tuesday, I'll kind of talk about my stuff a little bit, and then I'll let Ms. Brown talk as well. Tuesday was our first day with all of our staff back. From my perspective, I went over some housekeeping items with our staff from the district office. And then one thing that I started last year when I first became a superintendent in my previous district, I was trying to figure out how do you introduce yourself to a group of people. Coming here, it was easier because a lot of people knew me, but I'm not one that is a big sharer. But at the same time, when you get into this position and you wear the suit and tie and it almost feels like you're not relatable and you want people to see you as a human being. So last year I did the whole introduction. Well, my thing that I do now each year is I started with my kindergarten school picture. And so I show my school picture each year. This year was first grade. And the shirt that my mom dressed me in, I mean, it could not have been any more 1977. I mean, the big collar and sweater vest and Paisley or something. It was fantastic. But my goal as superintendent is to be relatable and to make sure that people see me as someone that you can approach and have a relationship with. So that's kind of what I try to do as far as just letting people get to know me a little bit more. And then I talked with the staff a little bit. I shared some thoughts. I had read a book over the summer called Lead for God's Sake. And it was one of the best leadership books I'd ever read. Because it wasn't about, you got to do these 3 things to be a great leader. It was a real story about a basketball coach in Kentucky, a high school basketball coach that truly was one of the most winningest coaches, but was going through some very difficult times in leading his team. And it was absolutely hands down one of the best books I've ever read on leadership. And I just felt a heartbeat to share some of those points with the staff. Also, each year on opening day with the whole staff, I do a wheel of names. Everybody's name's on there, and we call it Raider Giveaway, and we spin the wheel and give out gift cards just to do some appreciation for our staff. And then the last thing that I end with each year, and I started this last year also in my previous district, is I do the one-word challenge with our staff. That's from John Gordon, one of my favorite authors. And last year I showed them the video introducing the one-word challenge to them. And so this year I always share my one word with them and then challenge them to come up with their own for the year as well. So that was a lot of what was going on Tuesday. Wednesday, fresh start. You heard Mrs. Riggins. What an amazing job that she does with that day. It is just great to see those kids in, and our mentors that are taking the kids around and teaching them the ways here at EPCHS. So that took up a lot of Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday was our first days of student attendance. One of the things that I love the most to do on those days is to be out in the hallways, because this building, as you all know, is so crazy, and you come in and you're trying to figure out where to go. And I'm always super impressed when I dress like this and I'll have kids actually come up and ask for directions on where to go. And we're all out there. I mean, all the administrators are out there trying to help kids find their place. So that was, from my perspective, that was a lot. It's a very busy week. In addition to it being the first week of school, for some reason the state decides that they're going to have all these major reports due on August the 15th, which is right at the beginning of the school year, plus preparing a budget and then getting ready for the August board meeting. So it's a very, very busy week. So you kind of just jump back in both feet, and it's great to have everybody back. And I talked more than I thought I was going to, so I'm going to let Ms. Brown take it from here and talk a little bit more about stuff.
No, you hit on all the points. A majority of my time the first week, especially that first day of having staff back, building the excitement and getting them excited to come back. Everyone is always in a good mood and happy to be here. haha. But no, it's always good. But we try to pick a theme every year. So this year, being year 5 for me as principal, was putting the pieces together. What I've learned by observing and having conversations over my first 4 years as principal, and then my time teaching in the building prior to that, is we have so many good pieces in here, and we just need to put them all together in a better way so it's more intentional. So the actual theme for the year is putting the pieces together, and it's puzzle themed and things like that. But it really is going to focus on building on our existing strengths, being intentional about collaboration. We have some of the best teachers, and I would put them up against anybody. But she may never see what I do in my classroom, and I may never see what Mr. Hackett does. So how do we build a system where teachers can do that and go see what other people are doing so they can get ideas and strengthen what they're doing in their craft? So we're going to be really intentional about our collaboration and working together on our essential standards in the classroom. That provides clarity and consistency for everybody, kids, families, teachers. And I think that's really important. And then you've heard Holly talk a lot about MTSS and that program, but really you cannot have a good MTSS program without a really strong foundation in Tier 1. And so we're looking at that and going over that and reviewing things so we can strengthen that MTSS program. On that first day, I have them always do an activity, which teachers don't like to do, but it's fun. So we brought some puzzle pieces in, and all the teachers wrote on there, actually all the staff, it wasn't just teachers, it was the whole staff, wrote on that puzzle piece one word, similar to what Mr. Hackett was talking about with his one word challenge, but this one word was something that they want to strengthen as their piece of the puzzle and their part of the puzzle this year. So I'll put all those on a bulletin board so we have that constant reminder as we go to our staff meetings every month. And then they had another bigger puzzle piece, and this is for them to display in their rooms and their offices outside their door. And it was, they get to create how their piece fits at EPCHS. So some people did song lyrics, some people did a collage, some people drew it, some people wrote on it, some people doodled. So it was all kinds of different things that they could do, but then they can display that as how they fit here and why their piece is important to what we do. So that's pretty much the gist of the first day that we come back. And then fresh start, we obviously do the housekeeping and the annual reminder things. But then having the kids back has been great. We kind of got the gamut of all things on day one. The power flickered and went out for a couple minutes. Yeah. We had a ceiling tile that kind of got wet from all the rain. So we had a lot of things happen on day one. So it was really exciting and awesome. And everyone thought they were going to get to go home early, but they didn't. We got power outages and water leaks down now. So everybody's staying here. But yeah, no, it was a really good, exciting few days. And the kids are still happy to be here and excited to be back, which is good energy.
Yeah. I was sitting in my office, and actually Cass and Holly were in my office. We were discussing something, and did it flicker at one point,
First.
Amy? Yeah, it like flickered, and I'm like, and then it went out, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Oh my, it was like, you felt like that moment of, past trauma coming back and visiting you. So we immediately, dispersed to the hallways and keep everybody in their rooms. And luckily it was not out for very long. Like
2 minutes,
yeah,
3
there
minutes.
was a couple minutes there. Very, very relieved that it came back on. We were past lunch at that point in time. So when we had this issue last year, it was like we had to have a way of feeding the kids. And so we were in a place where we were not going anywhere this time. We were going to make sure everybody was safe. But luckily it came back on quickly. So we were thankful for that after what we experienced over the summer for 3 weeks. So, and Ms. Brown would never say this, but the first day with people back, for her, it's just crazy. I mean, it's all the teachers and they all have questions, and she does a rock star job of addressing all of those things. So again, she would never say that or tell you that was part of it. But by the end of that first day, I mean, we're a little worn out. We're happy and we're loving it. We're glad we're here, but it takes a couple days and getting all the questions answered and everything. So thank you, Ms. Brown, for all that you do with that. Any questions about the first week of school?
So you need to stay hydrated and keep the nutrients up.
Yeah.
How do you, for the teachers, you were talking about teachers learning from other teachers. Are there ways that you can get, like, especially younger teachers into the classroom, or teachers that might be struggling? How do you, into the classroom, maybe some of your stronger performers? What are the ways that we do that at EP?
Part of our mentoring program is having a monthly meeting with our instructional coach, Laura Moore. And then each semester, so it doesn't seem evaluatory, she will take all of the new teachers and she'll set it up with, we usually do 3 to 4 teachers at a time, and we will get them a sub for half the day, and she'll go to each room with them, and they all watch the same thing, and then they come back and then we talk about it. What did you see? What did you like? What's something that you would want to try in your room? And keep it very much so as a coaching and teaching and learning type of thing, as opposed to evaluatory. So we do that with our new teachers, and our staff members have the option always to request a sub for a class period. So if there's like a work day on a project and they want to go watch someone, they can ask me for suggestions, they can ask the instructional coach, but we encourage them to get outside of their department so that they can go see other things. You may be a math teacher, but you should go watch the Spanish teacher to see, what they do in their room. So we always have that opportunity. When you get into the thick of the school year and you're doing all the things, that kind of gets put on the bottom of the checklist. So we're trying to build a process this year where it's actually like structured and scheduled time for people to do that.
It was really neat. So at the end of the school year, Ms. Brown and I sat in on one of our current teachers was doing a presentation for completing his master's program. And one of the things that he had brought up was this topic. And Cass and I are kind of both collaborating in our heads and then talking to each other. And we're like, man, we really want to see more of our teachers seeing more of our teachers teaching. Because there's just some people here that, man, you really just need to go watch this person teach. So we're actually talking about maybe a little incentive program to maybe promote that a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say, at Bradley, where we've been trying to do something like this, the challenge is when it's voluntary, it becomes very difficult. We don't throw around incentives, but if I would, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And then you don't necessarily want to have sticks either. Maybe for a brand new teacher or something, it's like this becomes mandatory, or I don't know how you guys work that out. But we continue to have trouble doing that. But again, there's lots of literature and other ideas, and obviously just common sense. Putting your best people around folks that are solid significantly enhances the teaching everywhere. So it sounds like you guys are on the track for doing that. So
The other thing that we do is dedicate some professional development time to allow our staff to get up in front of the rest of the staff. So it's not always just me or the instructional coach or us bringing in someone else. It's people within your own building, so that they can learn from each other. So if we have someone who's like, I went to a conference and saw this really cool thing, or I did this from a conference and now I've done it for a year and this is what I want to share. We do that. And then some of our institute days, we'll do a dedicated couple hours and do like a stations essentially, where people are showing 15 to 20 minutes of something that they do, and you rotate around, and then we'll do a second one so that the people that presented the first time are able to go too. So we do those too, just so that they can learn from each other, because they're really good at what they do.
Right. Well, and all the sharing of ideas, it's not going to work. Everything's not going to work for everyone, but
right.
Eventually, if you get enough of that, some of the best practices start to filter up to the top. For everyone. That's
for
great.
sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, information item 2608-05, board policy update. We received some proposed board policy updates from IASB Press issue 122, so the committee will need to meet to review those updates with board action taking place after their review. And then next one's yours.
Sure. Last information report. Have there been any of the board committees meet since our last meeting? Great.
I will need to set up a time, Clark and Indy, for us to get together before the September board meeting to go over board policies.
Sure.
So I'll get in touch with you guys to get that set up.
Perfect. Next on the agenda is unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business from a board member for the board?
Yes, if I may.
Yeah.
Last month, Mr. Paulson he asked me if I wanted to provide y'all an update related to an independent study vote that was made in May. If you remember, we took that vote. And because there's been some development with that, and because of the Captivate and the other executive session from last month, I said, no, we'll hold it off for now, if that's okay, still okay, so I appreciate that. Anyway, after the May vote, a few weeks after that, I reached out and said, is there any strategy or plan that's been put together and how to discuss that with the other districts? And what I got back was that District 86 said they were maybe interested, and thank you for gathering this information. District 76 may be interested, and that Robine said they had voted 4-3 to not support a resolution to do an independent study. And I was a little surprised by that, but so I asked Mr. Paulson if there would be an opportunity to talk to the board president, and he set that up, and I had a coffee with him, Stephen Norval, and he was very cordial, open, honest, but what I found was quite interesting in that their vote was taken at their March meeting, and ours it was in May, so I'm confused by that. And when he shared with me the process of their conversation, and it was based on some of the material that he had seen that had been shared with other boards, there was the consolidation word in there jumped out at him, and he said that became a focal point. And I tried to suggest, this is me having coffee with him, I wasn't representing the board or the district, I was representing more of my perspective, but I was trying to say that there was more intent in the idea of an independent study because it had to do with student population and what was it going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years. And his comment was, well, perhaps if they knew those kinds of things or had looked at it a little closer or had more conversation, they might have looked at it differently. So I find it a little unsettling, perhaps, that as you all know, that something like this, it can't move forward unless there's approval from all the feeder districts as well as ours. And with them taking the vote, does that suggest that the idea of an independent study has stalled? And I tried to communicate to Mr. Paulson and Mr. Hackett that from my perspective, I think I'd like to find a way to regroup and see if there's a way to communicate again and see if the District 85 would be open to some conversation or something like that. But there was enough of a development there that I appreciate the opportunity to update you all with what has happened in the last few months with that.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Driscoll? All right. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any new business for the board? Any closing comments?
I just love that you guys use one word. I use it a
Absolutely.
lot in my life,
Thank
so,
you. Yeah, when I discovered that,
yeah.
yeah.
And then the collaboration, I think that's amazing. I think they could really learn a lot. So I appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
My closing comment is I'm very excited for my first to come here next year because I think the leadership here is just fantastic, and I'm proud to be able to say that I'll have kids in this district and in this school, and I think you guys are doing great, and it's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Any other? Great. We have no need for executive session tonight, so I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved. You got it that time.
Moved by Mr. Ingerson and a second by Mr. Bailey. All those in favor signify by an aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 7:08.